Good afternoon. My name is Scott. I'm codependent. I'd like to introduce my new friend Sharon, who's responsible for putting all these presentations together. Ask you to give. I found out they're a bit short on handouts, so can we see how many folks need a handout? Oh boy, so yeah, better bit. I'm gonna guess maybe 30 folks. Okay, hang on.
At least 30, 35.
You are the best. For those of you that don't have a handout, or if you do have a handout and you write all over it or you want one, I put my email on the board there. So it's a conjunction of my name. My name's Scott Johnson and I'm codependent. And it's scojones1125@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I will send you. I'm not going to write down your email. That's way too much data for me, And so but email me and I'll give you the handout and the PowerPoint if you want, because all of this is public domain. Okay, so I stole every good thing I've ever gotten. So that's about all it does, and if we go higher, it feeds back. So you could help me if you could be quieter. That would be good. Yes, my dear. I know. Then I spit. I'm a spitter. Right. I want to introduce myself a little bit more to you. The home I grew up in with, my mother had an undiagnosed mental disorder, which I believe was a bipolar disorder. And she was also addicted to, get this, doctor-prescribed medication. Can you imagine that? And alcohol. And so she was pretty violent. And being the oldest of three, I learned very early the rules of living in an addicted family where you don't talk and you don't trust and you don't feel. And I learned how to repress all of my emotions because I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry when she was beating me. And I learned to piss her off to keep her away from my younger brother and sister. And I'm so glad to say that my brother and sister are in recovery. And in fact, my sister Sheila is working at this conference. But I don't see her in the room, or I'd get a hand for Sheila, And my wife is in recovery, and her name's Judy, and that lovely woman is parked right behind her. Hey, Judy. And in a little bit, I'd like to give her a chance to talk a bit, too. So you good with the mic, girl? You good with coming up? You talk loud. Loud and fast. Okay, really good. Well, this is how to have intimate, healthy relationships that last a lifetime. And I have to tell you that this was one that I really had to work on. I tell folks that I'm really good at getting married because I've done it 3 times. Okay? Like learning how to have intimate, healthy relationships that last was not something that happened in my house. Do you need to?
5 minutes? Copies.
How about that? Wow. Hey, and while we're on that, hey man, what a conference, huh? How about this, huh? Yeah. Yes. Wow. And how about the presentations? I would pay money for this. I shouldn't probably say that, but I mean, seriously,
You want me to pass the basket?
Yeah, there you go. And most of all, I want to ask you to give yourselves a hand for being brave enough to face these issues, which are horrific. Yeah. That takes courage. Okay, back to the introduction. I'm going to try hard not to step on this much. So I was set up for addiction. I have a photo of my mother pregnant with me, an old black and white photo, and she's sitting there smiling with her big pregnant belly and a quart of vodka on it. And so I grew up with the disease of addiction, which, and you might notice that addiction and codependency are 2 sides of the same coin. And so what I'm going to tell you is everything that I've learned during the course of my life and in my profession, and in the failure of 2 marriages and 2 trips to divorce court about how to have healthy relationships that last a lifetime. I got into recovery from my primary addiction in 1978. 7 years after that, I started going to Al-Anon. There was no CODA in my area, but it turned out because I'm a professional addiction counselor and a social worker, I knew most of the folks that were writing the original material, and are good friends with some of them, at any rate. So I've been around a while. Like when I started going to CODA, I had hair. Right. So So your volunteer for the afternoon is a battered kid who's a recovering drunk, who's a recovering and who's been around for a while. And I would really love it if you'd use the volunteer, as much as you can. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm noticing it's feeding back. So I'm using my mic voice. How about this? This is my real voice. Can you hear me? No? You can't hear me? All right. I'll use my real voice into the mic. Okay. I'll stand back. I'm a spitter. I'm sorry, Becky.
Sorry, we heard your spit.
Yeah, right. She's not impressed with my spit. She's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to move through the PowerPoint. This is what we're going to cover in 90 minutes or less. If PowerPoint wants... mobile mouse is failing me now. Yeah. Okay, this is actually a 3-hour presentation. I'm going to compress into a 90-minute presentation. So some of these might get edited out, like the break. We're not going to have a break in the middle. But what I tell people is that I give talks, I don't take hostages. Okay, so if you need to get up in the middle of this and go to the bathroom or get something to munch on, or you want to take a nap, I'm not offended at all. You're totally good, okay? And the other one is, I don't read minds. I'm not the expert of your life. You are. So if you need to get up and take care of yourself or stretch because you're getting the yawns and stuff, that's totally good. Make yourself comfortable. Are we all good with that? Okay. I'm going to give you some pretty good academic information because I worked hard on it. I'm going to talk a little bit about addicted and codependent relationships versus healthy relationships. And then in the second part, I'm going to talk about 7 stages of a healthy relationship that you can use to build boundaries. So you can develop healthy relationships in your own life. Now, all of that is public domain. So you can copy the handout, put your own name on it, say you wrote that, that's fine with me, just share the data. You can email me, I'll give it to you. Okay. I'd also like to do an interactive exercise with you today. Now, interactive exercises means talking about your own personal life. And that's a different set of rules than public domain. So if someone wishes to do the exercises, there's a different set of rules, and I want to try to contract with you so we can get into an agreement about that, okay? So the first rule is, if someone in this room shares something with you about their personal life, confidentiality is the key. And it's just like in our meetings. What we hear here and what we see here, when you leave here, stays here. Can everybody agree to that? Okay, if you agree, hold up your hands. Hold them up, look around the room. Okay? See, there's no snitches, right? That's so good. All right. Oh, yeah, you need a handout. Keep your hand. Okay. Here's. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then here's the second rule. All the exercises that are interactive are voluntary. You don't have to do them. Seriously. And you'll learn vicariously if you choose not to do them. And I'll tell you what the exercise is before you do it so you can be well informed. All right? And then the third rule is, if you choose to do an exercise, I want your permission to guide you through it. Okay, like I'll do a visualization with you. So while you're doing the visualization, I want your permission to coach you, briefly. Like, don't start making up your own visualization, like Freddy Krueger suddenly appears or something, like that. Don't do that. All right, so that no persons will be harmed during the course of this presentation, okay? So confidentiality. The exercises are voluntary, and if you choose to do an exercise, I want your permission to guide you. That's called informed consent. Okay? Okay, really good. All right, so I'm going to start talking about... Come on. There we go. Addicted and codependent relationships versus healthy relationships. So I'm on page 1 of the handout. If you don't have a handout, try to look on with someone. There are 4 universal principles of healing. And they are, 1, it's important to show up. And by that, what I mean is, you need to get the focus off of everything else around you, people, places, and things, and start getting the focus back on yourself. I learned this because I grew up in a household where there could be bombs going off half a block away. I learned how to figure out how my mom felt this fast the minute she walked in the door. And I developed this hypervigilant radar. You understand? Now, I couldn't tell you what I was feeling, but I knew what she was feeling half a block away. And I learned how to put my mother's face on my sexual partner as I became an adult. That's called the myth of reenactment. So that I could tell you what she was feeling didn't have a clue what I was. So when I say the first thing is show up, that means you got to show up in your own life. Like, actually start getting the focus on yourself. Now, you might notice that that's hard to do if you're codependent. Okay? What I did was I went and bought one of these thick rubber bands and I put it around my wrist, and being this crafty little guy that's read a couple of books, I thought I'd use aversion therapy. And whenever I started focusing on something else, I gave myself a little whack on the wrist with the rubber band. I had to quit that crap in 2 days because I had a bruise the size of a quarter, and I just couldn't do it because I found out, guess what? I'm powerless. I'm codependent. And this is for real. This is a real disease that kills people. My denial didn't tell me about that. So then the next one is, you got to pay attention. Come on now. And what paying attention, aside from showing up, means is be emotionally present. Most folks, me to begin with, I learned from the beginning that the minute something happens in reality, my brain is going to pounce on that and start controlling it. And the first thing to control is my feelings. So I'm real good at explaining why I'm doing something and why this needs to change and why you should be changing your behavior. And in short, I go up in my head. Okay. If you really want to heal, you got to do the opposite. So it's like if you've ever done a breathing exercise in a meditation, as you breathe and you pull the air down into your body, don't go up in your head. For guys, this is especially hard because we get this drilled in our heads from the minute we're little kids. You know, you're playing sports or basketball on the basketball court or baseball and you get hurt. What's the first thing you do? They ask you okay? What do you say? I'm good. I'm good. It's just a blown ACL. It's not a big deal. I'm good. I can do this. Right? Right? No, go down your throat. Be emotionally present. Then, here's the next one. Tell the truth. I couldn't believe how dishonest I was coming into this program, and I'd been 7 years in AA working on honesty as an issue. Okay? Like, for example, I would be lonely, and what I would do is I would clean the house and make a nice dinner for Judy, and then Judy was supposed to just come home and guess that I was lonely and know, because that's what the woman's supposed to do, right? I had this fantasy woman that would just know my emotions, so I didn't have to actually tell her, right? Right? Because I'm perpetrating this fantasy on my wife and wondering why this shit isn't working. Pardon me for cussing, right? Right? And then my sponsor said, you know, what would happen if you just told her the truth? And so I tried that. I tried, hey, Judy, and it was like trying to cough up a golf ball or something. No, I mean, like, actually tell the truth. Now, it's important to tell the truth with mercy for me, because I used to like to tell the truth, like with a baseball bat, you know. Oh, you want the truth? Oh, right? Right? I'll give you the truth. Right? And that's really manipulative and controlling. So the third one is tell the truth, but tell the truth with mercy. So I learned how to just be direct. These are simple tools I did not get growing up. Nobody in my house was direct. We did this thing called triangulation. Right? If I wanted Dad to find out that Mom had been beating us, I would tell my sister, who would tell my dad, who would confront my mom, and I was good at it, you know? And then I'd play both ends, and Mom would go, did you tell your father? No, I didn't tell my father. You know, like that. You know what I mean? And so I had to practice being direct. And then finally, remain open, but not attached to the outcome. So I need to show up, pay attention to what's actually going on in my emotional system and my head, tell the truth, and then let go of and not be attached to the outcome. Now that involves a certain amount of trust and a power greater than myself to do that. But if I'm not willing to do that, I can't expect to start having healthy relationships because I'm not participating in the relationship with me. I'm not in reality. And I want to tell you, codependency is a disease of fantasy. Think of all the fantasies we've got. Anybody here get a resentment going? Anybody else besides me? You know, if you've been in divorce court, you know about resentment. All I got to do is, oh, that's so unfair. Why did she say that? And next time I see her, I'm going to say this. Oh, but then she'll say that. But then I'll say this. And then like 45 minutes goes by, and I'll be having a run-on conversation with a person that isn't even there. Okay, you know what I mean? That's crazy fantasy. That's sick fantasy. Okay, so. Okay, I'm sorry here, gang. You know what? I may need to. Okay, so there's two ways to figure out how to do healthy, intimate relationships. Number one, do what works. There's an old slogan that I hear in meetings. It goes, out of the problem into the solution. Or, as soon as I find out that I'm in the problem, I need to stop everything and get in the solution. Which means, for me, when I'm doing one of the patterns that's in our literature, and I can identify that, my number one job is to stop everything and quit doing that pattern. And when I was early in CODA, I would do a pattern run on for a month before I took a crack at it. Maybe if I had a migraine, I might think about not doing that pattern anymore. Now, like immediately. So get in a relationship and try as much as you can about what you know that works in a relationship. And try to see if the person you're having the relationship with is willing to do that back with you. So do what works. And here's the other way to do it. You do what doesn't work, but you learn something. Okay? Now, what I've learned is that, there's two major schools on how to have relationships. And the one school is like this. Relationships are like cars. When they wear out, just throw them away and go get another one, right? There's a lot of folks I know doing that. And that's called serial monogamy, right? Yeah, I'm true. I know what fidelity means. She's my only one. We got together about 6 months ago, and I can see it going in the garbage can already, But there'll be another one right after that. You know what I mean? Okay, and I did that a long time. Anybody done that? Can you relate to that? Serial monogamy. Yeah, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And then here's the other one. You do all this work on yourself and you become spiritually really clean, and then you start emanating this spiritual cleanness, and then this spiritual person shows up, and then you get in a relationship, right? Right? Has anybody tried that one? I did that one too. Anybody else tried? Oh, not many people have tried that one. How does that work? It works. It sucks. Both of them suck. Both have the same track record. They just don't work. It's a myth. What I found out is that... could you back me up? What I found out is that the best school that works is that if I find out how to take care of myself and treat myself in a loving manner, and I use healthy discipline on myself, and then I have a clue about what to do about Judy, that seems to work the best. And I've seen it with other people. If you get really good at taking care of yourself, and you have a clue about what works with your partner, you have a much better chance in reality of having a meaningful relationship that lasts. The problem with that is that there's a little boy inside of me that wanted a kind, nurturing mom. And he's pretty stubborn. And he had to grieve really hard that wasn't going to happen in my life. And until I went inside and did the inside work I need to do, I wasn't going anywhere. Okay, because my chemistry was all messed up. I kept finding that insane woman that I was going to resolve that issue with. Can you relate? Okay, it's just difficult to grieve. So I can tell you, but it ain't easy. Okay? But the important thing is that all healing comes in relationships. I really mean that. Don't isolate. The worst thing you can do is go, I'm just not going to be in a relationship. What you're going to do is retard your growth. You retard the development of your soul. And I'll give you some proof. How many of you have had a really crappy day and you go to a good CODA meeting and you walk out the door and you feel relieved and happy? Anybody had that experience? Okay, there you go. That's because there's a spiritual experience going on in the room. A power greater than ourselves expresses himself in our group conscious. We listen to the other people talking. We're having a relationship with a group of folks in the room, and it changes our life. At least it did for me. See? So don't shy away from relationships. Get in them. Count how many you've got. See if you can increase that. That might be better. I'm serious. The deal is that if you're in one that isn't working, just learn something. That's all. You don't have to do them perfect. Nobody does them perfect. Okay? We're all human beings here. We're all learning. I'm still learning. Okay? Is that making sense? All right. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between addicted relationships and healthy relationships. And I have no idea why I have intermittent mouse here, but live with me. Okay, that is supposed to be the picture of a bleeding cut. Okay? This is what addicted relationships feel like. It's this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's like I've received this wound, and I'm slowly bleeding to death, and I'm thinking, God, I got to get out of this relationship. This is killing me. It's like I can feel my lifeblood dripping out. But if I leave the relationship, it's going to kill me. So I got to stay in it, even though it's killing me. Do you know what I'm talking? Anybody had one of those? Oh, look at the room. Hold your hands up again. Come on, look around the room. There you are. You see us? See, you're one of us. There's a reason why you're here. This is so good. Right? Right? Oh my God. It's really something else. Getting out of that is not easy. Okay. Getting out of that is tough. So I have what I call the good news and the bad news for you. The good news and the bad news is this, that the elevator to healthy relationships is broken. You have to take the steps. That's all there is. And believe me, I tried it the other way really hard. I got a college degree. I became a social worker and a therapist. So I'm one of the sickest in the room, right? Right? I maxed out a credit card buying self-help books for my family. Anybody done that? Charging self-help books for your family? You straighten them out and then you'll be happy, right? Totally get it. There is no other way. In fact, the real treatment for this deadly illness of codependency is in the first 9 steps of the CODA. Steps 1 through 9 are all about that. Steps 10 and 11 are the slip stoppers, and 12 is what puts the life in the program. Okay, so how many people in this room, honestly, remember we took a vow of confidentiality? How many people in this room honestly have worked the first 9 steps of CODA? Can I see? Okay, really good. Now, you guys that haven't, look around at the people that have their hands up. These are the people you want to get to know, because they can save your life. That's how it works. See, relationships are where all the healing is, and you can't work the steps by yourself. What I wanted to do is get them all down so I was the expert, so I could go to Sharing Anonymous, share really good in the meetings, and wow you. You know what I mean? Right? Anybody done that? It doesn't work. It just don't work. And so, remember, the elevator is busted. You got to take the steps. But if you do the steps, it can work for you. And I'm offering myself as a generic codependent. Pretty messed up, sick, generic codependent. Okay, but next month, Judy and I will celebrate 20 years of marriage. We raised 4 kids. 2 were hers, 2 were mine. This was like raising a bloody political caucus in the house. As bad, and the debates were as bad as the one that was on the other night. Okay? And we're doing it. It's good. So the thing to remember is that recovery is an inside job. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'm down at the bottom of page 1. I'm on Roman numeral 4, and I'm talking about how you go about doing this. Here's some simple steps. First, it's really important to stop looking. Okay? I went to great lengths looking. Some of you may have done the same thing. I learned to play the keyboards and bought expensive band equipment and got in several bands because I knew that the guys in bands got girls. And I developed ways to get girls. I never was really a good musician, but I was pretty good at getting the girls at one time in my life when I had hair. And they were the same girl. Okay, have you noticed that you may have had a number of partners, but they had very many similarities? Right. That's because it's the same disease. So stop looking. Okay, it's an inside job. Okay, if I stop looking, I would get with these women and we'd start talking and we'd have these elaborate phone conversations and conversations over coffee and we'd share our pathology together. And I would think, God, I've met my soulmate. She really understands me. She completes me. She fulfills me. And that would just drive my chemistry, okay? In fact, I can go to the mall and sit down with a cup of coffee and watch girls go by and find them. And I get the hormone cocktail. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, women get it too, where it goes like that, right? Ooh, that one's hot. Yeah, right? And then I look a little closer. They're so sick, right? It's the same deal. Stop that. That's sick chemistry. Okay, all that is my disease is looking for somebody else's disease to have a party with. If you share somebody's pathology, that just means you found someone as sick as you. That's not going to work. Okay, in the literature, in the little pamphlet, Peeling the Onion, which is a real good one to walk right out of here and buy. If you don't got a copy of this, get it. These are really, go to Peeling the Onion meetings. These are great. It says right in here, 2 vacuous halves do not make a whole. They make a hole, but it's a black hole. You get sucked in, and then suddenly you're in divorce court. Okay? Do you understand? Okay, there was a disc that you could get a couple of years ago from the CODA homepage. I don't think you can get it anymore, but it might still be circulating. It's great. It's called "How Empty of Me to Be So Full of You." Huh? It's here. You can buy it. That's a great disc. Okay, really recommend that. So number one, stop looking. And what is that called when you stop looking? Anybody? Step one. That's called step one. If you're willing to stop looking, you're working the steps. I am powerless. No, it says we. We admitted we were powerless. Now, can you hear the relationship in that? Okay, so if I can't work those steps by myself, you need to have a healthy relationship with someone else in CODA. You know, having a CODA companion or a CODA friend, that's a killer idea. Okay? Next one is, join a men's group or a women's group. Okay? So, I used to think that there was this soulmate out there, you know, waiting for me. I even had a fantasy about what she looked like. She was going to be about 5'1", brown hair, turned up nose, body like an hourglass. She was going to be like the mother of God and a whore blended together. And she was out there. You know, I even knew what her voice sounded like, you know, and I was going to find her, you know, and all of that crazy stuff. And that was my soulmate. You know what I'm talking about? Do you got a fantasy soulmate? You know, women, you got a fantasy soulmate? You know, yep, that's total fantasy. That's sick, crazy stuff. Okay. Your soulmate is not who you think. I found out my first soulmate was a guy named Gary Paulson, who was this fat, bald guy that wore suspenders, and he was a dog sledder, so he had in this parka half the time, and he was a writer. He was this old, wrinkly, bearded guy, you know. And Gary started teaching me something, that relationships are not about what you get. They're about what you bring. And if I'm going to bring my sick pathology and my empty hole of shame to this relationship, you know what I'm going to get? More sick pathology and more reinforcement for that shame. You know, and I kept looking for this woman that would say those magic words, I'm going to make a man out of you. Right? Right? Okay. Well, guess what? Men don't get their masculinity from women. I didn't learn that where I grew up. Men get their masculinity from healthy men. It's called mentoring. And guess what? Women don't get their femininity from men because men are freaking clueless. We don't get that at all. We don't. We exist in a different reality altogether. Okay? Women get their femininity from healthy women. So that's why it's so important to go to women's groups or men's groups and pay attention. And it doesn't matter if there's straight people or gay people in there. It doesn't matter. It's so important that it be a men's group for men and a women's group for women. Then, I read a guy named Shepard Bliss. Shepard is a retired anthropology professor up in Berkeley. And I thought it was a fake name, but he actually comes from a long family of anthropology professors with the last name of Bliss. But he studies pre-industrial cultures, and what Bliss discovered was that in all pre-industrial cultures, without exception, they describe reality in three ways. There is the world of women that men will never understand. There is the world of men that women will never understand. And then there's the world of men and women. But in order for things to be correct in the world of men and women, they must first be correct in the world of women and the world of men. Okay, does that ring true? Okay, well, I didn't get that in my house. I got way overmothered and way underfathered. I had an intrusive, crazy mother who basically did emotional incest with me. I was her little spouse. She never had sex with me, but we did everything else. I did the budget and the cleaning and the meals and the raising of my brother and sister and all of that stuff. And she told me crazy things. Like, you can't trust your dad, and I'm glad you're not like other men. And I would look at myself and go, okay, I'm not like you, and I'm not like other men. What? Am I gay? You know, and for a while I was wondering. It was difficult. It was very hard for me to straighten that out. Because you don't get masculinity from women. Okay? Can anybody in the room relate to that? And they said, you got to go to men's meetings. And I'd go, no, I don't like that. You know, and really what it was is they scared me. And I've seen women come into men's meetings going, I don't like hanging out with women. You know what that was? That's just a sign of abuse as a child. Okay? And I got to get over that. So, let's talk about the word homophobia. Homophobia these days is a PC word for being a bigot against gay people. But that's not really what the word means. Homophobia means you're afraid of your own kind. See, most of the gay people are the unfortunate victims of other people that are terrified, like guys who are afraid of men, who like grew up overmothered and underfathered, and so they persecute gay people because of that, and they wind up getting beat up. What homophobia means is you're afraid of your own kind. Now, if having a healthy relationship is based on getting comfortable with who the hell you are in your own body, and you're afraid of your own kind, you're screwed. You are. And you'll get this hole in you. And you know what goes in that hole? Sick relationships, chemicals, and addiction. Because codependency is the mother of all addictions. Am I telling the truth here? Okay. There. See? So there. So get in a men's group and a women's group and start looking for a soulmate. If you can get an older one that's been in recovery a while, they're a gold mine. Grab onto them. Don't let them go. Okay. I mean, this is really good stuff. So what I got out of going to men's groups is I got comfortable being a man in my own body, and I got comfortable with the male mode of emotion, which is different than the feminine mode of emotion. The male mode of emotion is very slow. It's kind of like drilling for oil. Judy will say, how do you feel? We do this exercise where we write down our feelings. How do you feel? And I'll go, hungry? No, hungry's not a feeling. Pizza? But I learned that if I take my time with my own process, I feel very powerfully. And most of the time when men get a hold of what they feel, they use that energy to change things. It's a dynamic energy. And then they do things like create governments and do science and write music and change the direction in their life. Women do it different. Do you want to say a couple words about going to women's meetings? Okay. Here's Judy. Hey, Judy.
Came into CODA was 2 hours, and now I learned a lot of things. But in CODA, I learned that I don't get my femininity from my boss or from a man. I was told as a child that I needed a man to be whole. I needed a man to make me feel good, make me survive, make me healthy, make me independent. So when I had my crash and burn after my first marriage, I realized that I don't get my femininity from men. I get it from women. And I get it from God and from women. And so I go to a Tuesday CODA with the library. And it's been really helpful. And I can unite with that energy of other women and their hormones. And a woman is so different from a man. And so it helps me with the ability to be whole as an individual, so that I can take it to my relationship and not be so needy. Because before CODA, I was half a person. I was at bachelor's half. I thought I was empty, but I was really just full of fear and pain and shame. And so I'm learning how to deal with all that by coming to these conferences and showing up to the meetings, even when I don't want to go. I work, I got this and that, but I know it's important for me to go and to remember that I'm a woman and I will get my femininity protected. And it is a miracle at 22 years next month.
And she knows too, trust me.
Yes, and I had to. It's just a miracle. So I'm going to keep coming back for life because I am codependent until I no longer can breathe and my heart stops.
Hey, Judy. Hey, did I get a good one? Huh? I want to tell you, there is a God. See what happens when you let go of your own chemistry and surrender your plan? You get something like that. Okay? And I find that femininity very attractive, by the way, guys. Not the dependent, sick one anymore. I can see them. The nice thing about recovery is stupid things actually start sounding stupid. Isn't that great? Oh boy, she's hot. I'm not listening to this crap. I'm out of here. I'm going to seize candy. The chocolate ain't going to kill me. Okay, so I'm on page 2 of the handout now. So it's important to learn the difference between addicted relationships, addicted and codependent relationships, and healthy relationships. I'll do a little contrasting here. Addicted relationships are characterized by chemistry, fantasy, and regression. So we talked about chemistry. You know what the hormone cocktail feels like. You know, and I like talking to my kids sometimes makes me nuts. I'll be talking to my youngest one. I'll go, you know, how you doing out there? You still alone? No, I'm dating this gal. I go, what do you think? I don't think it's going anywhere. There's no chemistry. I'm going, Jeff, you're in a good place. You don't want to, you know, you might make a friend. Yeah, and I've heard people say, oh, I'm not going to go out with them because they're my friend and it would wreck it. Really? Okay, that's crazy thinking. I have to tell you that right now because chemistry is dangerous. And the next one is fantasy. I just got done, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before last, I got done with a fantasy with Judy that was just a bone crusher. I was back in therapy over this. Can you hear me? Is this better? Okay, I hate the electronics. The electronics are like, yeah, but there it is. So I'm just going to accept it and deal with it. So I remember being a little boy in the 3rd grade. And when I was playing in the backyard, I had this elaborate fantasy where I was a sailor that was shipwrecked on an island and nearly killed. And this woman who was a nurse came by and kind of nursed me back to health. And that's when I started creating my fantasy woman, you know. And I was still perpetrating it on Judy. I had this belief that if I was the best husband and I did everything really well and managed everything, that what was going to happen was her and I were going to retire and she was going to travel all around the world with me. Okay. Now, doesn't that sound like a nice romantic fantasy? Yeah, but see, accidentally we have this family, you know. You wouldn't believe what 4 kids and a bunch of parents and cousins and craziness and all that. And so that wasn't going to happen. And my grief was just huge. And at that time, my daughter gave birth to our first grandchild. And Judy took off 3 weeks and went over to Kristen's place to help out. And I'm sitting at home going, she abandoned me. Okay. I'm in therapy over this. Okay. Now, some of you know, it is funny looking at it right now. I got to tell you, going through the grief, this was old stuff. Now, when I tell you that the elevator's broken and you need the steps and you need like your soulmate and some strong people around you to help you get through this is stuff you find out when you start peeling the onion. Now, this little boy inside of me did not want to let go of that fantasy. There was going to be this Wonder Woman that was going to take care of me. And I had to let that go and reconcile that little boy inside of me that wasn't going to happen. You know what the reward was? I figured out how to love my wife just the way she is. What a concept, huh? You want to have an intimate, healthy relationship that lasts? You better get good at accepting your partner for just who they are. Because I tried really hard to turn Judy into that magic way. She's even a nurse. See how far I went? I found a nurse. Huh? See? So that's going any length, huh, guys? Huh? That's doing the deal, right? Okay. Oh, my God. So, and they're also addicted, codependent relationships are also characterized by this thing called regression. Now, we're not talking a lot about regression. In some meetings I hear about regression. How many of you have even talked about regression or you hear it in meetings? Can I see? Some, but not many. Okay, so here's how regression works. I'm a little person. I'm being beaten by my mother. I stuff my feelings down because I'm not going to let her see what I feel. I repress all of that stuff. I grow up, and for a while, I'm working for Child Protective Services. And God help you if you beat a kid. Because I would get on your case, and if they put a pedophile on my case, I had a great I put him in prison. I would get him in prison. It was my mission. Do you understand? So I'm putting my mom's face. But I would get so mad. Okay? And it would start like this. Judy would just innocently say something that reminded me of my mother. You know, it would be like this big. And my reaction to what she said was like that big. You know what I mean? Okay, well, when something happens that's this big in your life and your reaction is like that, it's your past. And it's called regression. So now, honestly, think about the last time you're in a relationship with someone, maybe now, and you got into an argument. Did you act your age? Okay, I'm 62. I usually act like I'm what, 10, 11? Yeah, see? And I do this thing, she calls it the hand thing. And then I come back, I'm sorry, I forgot myself. I wasn't acting my age. I know you. You know, you see that? That's regression. Now, everybody regresses. The problem is that codependents do it as a lifestyle. You know, I'm projecting, I'd be furious at my boss, I'm putting my mom's face on my boss. I'm furious at my friend, I'm putting my mom's face on my friend. I'm regressing and regressing and regressing. After a while, it gets old and embarrassing. It's okay when you're in your 20s because you're young and you can get away with it. But in your 60s, you really look stupid and immature. Can you relate? Okay, so I know that I'm in the problem when I'm acting on chemistry, fantasy, or regression. And I'm doing what they call the myth of reenactment, which is, I'm going to resolve my problems I had with dad and mom with my present sexual partner. See, and that's where we get sick codependent chemistry from. In a healthy family, healthy chemistry comes out of finding a girl that reminds you of mom, but mom was actually loving, kind, and gave you some discipline. Do you understand? But I didn't get that. That was not my family of origin. And this stuff runs very deep. These patterns that they talk about, the literature is full of understatement. They don't go, oh, by the way, you can damn near kill yourself if you don't change this stuff. And it's really hard to change. It takes a spiritual experience with the steps. And so chemistry and fantasy and regression are all part of that myth of reenactment, and healing that does involve grief, which is another whole seminar. And if they have anything on grief in here, go. Because that's a real important piece of that, and there's just no getting around it. Okay? Is that making sense, guys? Okay. Healthy relationships actually begin with very little chemistry. Now, this is hard. It's like when I first came into the program, they said, say the Serenity Prayer. And I'd go, okay, and I'd say the Serenity Prayer, and then I'd kind of go, I don't really want serenity. I want excitement. All right? Excitement's way better than, screw this, I'm buying a Harley, I'm not praying, Right? Okay? And I had to pretty much give up living for excitement. And the same thing with, no chemistry? So what do you do? I don't get it. So the first time we had a date, we went and saw these mariachis, right? And it was kind of fun, but I thought, what? This isn't right. And her brother had to tell me, Scott, that's normal. And I went, okay? Yeah, it's normal, How do you feel? Well, hungry? No. I feel peaceful. He said, oh, God forbid you should go on a date and feel peaceful, Because the last 6 train wrecks you went out with, you came home with your head all messed up and you thought that was hot. You got to stop that. Okay, try that. Very little chemistry. Okay, healthy relationships start with recovery. And what they do is they're centered around building trust and safety and responsibility. And the more trust and safety and responsibility I can get going, the more fidelity I can get going. You see? It's an inside job. So it says right in our literature, the third tradition in CODA is our membership requirement is based on a desire for healthy relationships with ourselves, with a power greater than ourselves, and with others. That's what makes it different from AA. AA says AA's membership requirement is a desire to stop drinking. And then, now there's some of you guys that are double winners in here, so let me clear something up. You'll hear some of these old big book bashers that are going, everything you need is in the first 164 pages of the big book. Absolutely, you don't need to go to that shit. It's going to make you drink. Okay? Okay, well, 2 things about that. The membership requirement in AA says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. It clearly says we're not going to fix your relationships here. We're going to get it so you quit having your primary relationship with your drug of choice, which is good. And I still go to AA. I'm never going to quit going to AA because I don't want to go back out. But the people I've seen in AA that go back out after 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, you know why? They didn't come here. They didn't go deal with the mother of the disease. Right? Because this is friggin' AA on steroids, ain't it, guys? Huh? Howdy do. Here's you. Oh! Oh, God. Yeah, there it is. Yes? Trust, safety, and responsibility. And here's another word that addicts can't stand, or codependents, accountability. Like with my sponsor, he says, I want you to do this. And I say, I'm going to do that. He says, when are you going to show me what you did? When are you going to show me what you write down? Not what you say, what you wrote. Accountability. Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't get that at my house. Okay, that's not the place I came out of. I came out of look good at all costs and do anything you want. You know? Yeah, do you get, yeah. Okay. So, healthy recovery begins with very little chemistry. Healthy relationships are only possible when we can keep the focus on ourselves and stay in recovery. And what that means is personal recovery. So the key to healthy relationships is starting with me and my personal recovery program. So I have a daily recovery program that I use in CODA to keep me okay, so that I don't get in so much trouble with Judy and I don't hurt her so much. Because if I don't have a personal recovery program, I'm going to hurt the people I love. That's what codependency is. If I'm perpetrating a fantasy on somebody I really care about, I'm going to hurt them. I don't want to do that. Okay, that violates something real serious inside of me. So a personal recovery program for me is made up of very specific things. I have morning readings. I start right away because I've noticed that my disease wakes up before I do half the time. And it gets going. I got a plan for the day and it involves you. You know, it's like little swastikas appear on my eyes and, you know, by noon we shall have the dream realized. You know, and it's like... I'm looking in the mirror going, who is this guy? You know? And so I need morning readings right away. I need regular contact, face-to-face. Like I go to some Skype meetings and I do a lot of talking on the phone, but it's very helpful to get face-to-face with somebody else in recovery and get honest about what's really going on with me and apply the steps to that in the here and now. I got a personal recovery program. I got home groups. Okay, I got a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor, and I sponsor people. Okay, am I making sense here? These are absolute musts. I've been around a long time. I've been around long enough that I've seen people die of codependency. How many people in this room know somebody that died of their codependency? Look around the room. Look. Okay, now here's the scary truth, gang. There are people in this room that are going to die of their disease. In this room. That's what the numbers tell me. Okay, don't be one of those. You know, I want to come in here in a wheelchair one of these days and see you guys still around. I want to see you still alive and vibrant. Because, like, how many of you are really enjoying the atmosphere of just hanging out with a bunch of recovering people? Can you see that? Isn't this good? Isn't this good? Yes. Yes. Yeah, this is what I wanted my home to feel like. This is what I want a family reunion to feel like. Don't feel like that. My family reunions don't... It's a freaking 3-ring circus. Right? I see you relate. This is way better. You know, so that personal recovery program. Now here's what's great. This is simple. This is what helps me. Maybe this will help you. I'm also an insulin-dependent diabetic. I was diagnosed in rehab when I was 24 years old. Mr. Johnson, probably wouldn't be a good idea to do Scotch whiskey and methamphetamine because you're diabetic. Really? Is that why I'm peeing blood? Is that the deal? Yes, that's the deal. Okay. So I'm diabetic. That's a chronic illness, right? How many of you know a diabetic? Okay, what are your diabetics like when they go off their medication, get off their meal plan, get sloppy? What are they like? They get sick fast, don't they? Real fast, right? Okay, well, guess what? I'm codependent. It's a chronic illness. The minute I slack up, like things get busy and I think I need to cut back on my meetings, oh boy, I get sick fast. Okay, so a personal daily recovery program is the key. Because relationships are about what you bring. They're all about what you bring. You know, if I can bring some recovery to my relationship, and here, it's so important. This is one of the best things I've gotten on staying in a healthy relationship. I've learned to stay out of the problem, and the minute I'm in the problem, stop immediately. Okay? Now, I see people taking medallions in this program, and this is great. And I strongly encourage you to establish your recovery date and take a medallion. I take a medallion in AA. You want to know why? It's way easier. You just don't drink, you know. Shit, I got 38 years. This is so easy, you know. In CODA, do you know what I got? About 20 minutes. Seriously, that's about the longest I've put together is 20 minutes. And then, whoop, I slip, you know. Hi, how you doing? No, I know what you're feeling. You know. Wait a minute. Excuse me. I got to stop, you know. I had to back up. So I'm kind of like the navigational system on most jet airlines. The navigational system on most jet airlines shut off when the plane's on course. And the minute it's more than 1 degree off course, the navigational system engages and pulls the plane back on. So a plane can leave New York and land in Los Angeles and be within 2 minutes of its flight plan, but it'll be off course 90% of the time. Because it learns to get back online as soon as it gets offline. And that's a real good way to use a personal recovery program. So I'll give you my 10th step that works very well, especially with Judy, because I slip around her all the time. I ask myself often, what am I feeling right now? That's simple. What am I thinking right now? And what do I want to do right now? And if it's something rude and abusive or illegal, I need to get back on course. Okay? And sadly, it's abusive and rude and illegal a lot, and so I have to just keep getting back on course, right? But this program is amazing. If you use this thing, see, I found this out. This is a little secret they're not telling you about. It doesn't matter how much craziness you got going on up here. I have a lot of craziness going on up here, okay? I'm a therapist. Okay? The only thing that matters is how functional you are. That's the truth. That's what you're doing with it. In this program, even people with grave mental disorders can do remarkably well if you have a good recovery program and you're using it. Okay. So, I'm aware of the time. I know I'm running out pretty quick. I got 2 minutes for Q&A. Yeah, that's just what I was going to do. Yeah. What do I want to do right now? And right now is the big deal. If it's what am I thinking and it's about yesterday, I'm in a fantasy. Or if it's about tomorrow, I'm in a fantasy. I need to get out of that right now. I need to get back in reality. So, what am I feeling right now? A lot of times the answer is, I don't know, hungry, right? So then guess what? I got to get honest with myself. Because those feelings are driving me. See, is that making sense? Yeah, it's a real good 10th step. And I do it like 200 times a day. Yeah, so then I just get back online. Because I used to, how many of you did this? You'd read the pattern and you'd go, yeah, I do that. And then you just keep doing it for like a month. You know what I mean? And going, why does my life suck? I just don't get it. Why? Why is this? See? Any other questions? Yeah. Strange you should ask that. I have an interactive exercise to show you that right now. So, the question was, she said, how do you stay out of the problem? How do you know when you're in the problem? And my response was, strange that you say that. I have an interactive exercise to show you that. Because you might be like me. I grew up in a household where dysfunction was normal. In fact, that defined my reality. A lot of what they were asking me to do, like be honest about how I feel to another human being, oh my God. I got thrown down a flight of steps one time because I did that. I mean, that was drilled in my head. You don't do that. You know what I mean? So recognizing healthy is tough. And if you want to get into a healthy relationship and you're a codependent or an addict or both, God help you, you probably wouldn't recognize it if it fell out of the sky and hit you in the head like a piano. Okay, so it's important to do that. So could we move to an interactive exercise? Okay, I'll tell you what the exercise is. It's called 2 chairs. No, we're not getting break time. Sorry. 7 stages of healthy relationships. Okay. This is called a 2 chairs loving yourself exercise. It's really helpful to identify what you're like when you're in recovery. Now, that's different for everybody in the room. See, in our disease, we all act a lot alike. Because it's a disease. Like we all got the chicken pox. We'd all get the same little red bumps, and they're kind of itchy, and a high fever, and a general malaise, right? It's a disease. Okay, but who you are in recovery, that's something personal. All right? So this exercise is a visualization that is designed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you recall a time when you felt very good about yourself. Like perhaps a time when you just accomplished something that was difficult. Or perhaps many of the people you know and care about acknowledged you. Like you had a birthday and some people called you up and said, happy birthday, I love you, it's so good. And you felt good about yourself. And then what I'm going to do is I'll ask you some questions that cause some inner reflection. Okay, I'll ask you to answer the question silently, all right? And then we'll stop, and then what I'm going to do is try to evoke a slip in you, which is pretty easy to do. What you do is think about someone you love and care about that really misbehaves. And I'll have you imagine that that person is really messing up, like they're calling you for money now. Or they want to engage you in that lengthy negative story. It's always the story. The same story goes on and on, never gets fixed, and you're supposed to join it, or they're taking you hostage. You know what I mean? Then I'll ask you the same set of questions. But I promise I'll bring you back to a healthy state. Okay, so before we stop, I'll get you back into that state where you're actually acknowledging yourself. And I'll ask you to be aware of how you feel and what you think and what your body feels like. So you can identify, ooh, I'm slipping. I need to get back to this. Okay? Now, this is voluntary. You might run into some painful feelings. I won't forget you. Okay, I won't forget you. Certainly. The room's got tough acoustics, huh? Okay, I will. I'll do that. Okay, so did you understand the exercise? In the back, did you understand the exercise? A little bit. So it's visualizing yourself healthy, visualizing yourself in a slip, then visualizing yourself healthy again, so that you get some contrast going. So you can become conscious what it means to you to be in a slip and what it means to you to be in recovery, because that's different for everybody in the room. So you don't have to do this if that kind of freaks you out a little bit. That's fine. Don't do it. You'll learn vicariously, all right? But make up your mind. If you choose not to do the exercise, I just want to ask, please don't do a side conversation with somebody else, because it's distracting for the people that are visualizing. Okay. So make up your mind. And if you want to do the exercise, what I want to ask you to do is put down your paper and your books, and as best as you can, try to get comfortable in these chairs. And if you want to put your feet up, that's great. And if not, try and get both of them on the ground. You might want to stretch so you get a little air in your body. Oh, that feels so good. Okay. And it starts by taking a deep breath. I have a friend that comes to my men's CODA meeting. He's a yoga instructor, and he taught me when I meditate to do what's called belly breathing. You know what I'm talking about? Where you push your belly out when you pull the air in. So just start with a couple of those, like deep breaths. There you go. And do that again. Keep breathing, and as you breathe out, let go of all this academic stuff I've been giving you, and all the stress you've had, and any fear you might have. Just breathe deep. Make a noise like that. That's good. Okay, doesn't that feel good? Okay, now here's what I want you to do. When you're ready, use your imagination and think of a time when you felt very good about yourself. And it felt genuine. Perhaps it was a time when you just completed a difficult task. Or perhaps it was a time where people that loved and care about you in a healthy way acknowledged you. Like a birthday, or a holiday. And try to make the image of what you looked like on that day in your mind very clear. So use your imagination and look at yourself at this time when you feel good about yourself. So what was your posture like? And how did you hold your head? And your hair, what did it look like? And your clothes. And now imagine that you stare yourself in the eyes. What did your eyes look like on that time when you feel very good about yourself? Try to make the image of your eyes as clear as you can. And as you breathe, become that person. Because this person lives in your memory. So breathe and look yourself in the eyes and become that person. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to answer them silently. First of all, what is this person's life like? What do you like from this perspective? How do you feel about yourself? Try to come up with just a few words that describe how you feel about yourself from this perspective. Do you feel connected to a God of your understanding from this perspective? Can you imagine this higher power with you now? Do you feel a connection? Think for a moment about what is important to you. What do you hold as sacred? Do you have dreams or hopes or goals? Is family important? Is work important? What is important to you? What is sacred to you? From this perspective, what do you do for fun? Do you know how to have fun? From this perspective, what's your idea of fun? How do you take care of yourself from this perspective? What do you do to be good to yourself? How do you meet your needs? What do you want from other people from this perspective? Finally, is this who you really are? Is this you? Is this your true self? Now finally, take a deep breath and take a trip through your body. Like, how does your neck feel? How does your chest feel? And how does your belly feel? How do your shoulders, your hips? Breathe. See if you can find a feeling in your body. Try to identify an emotion, like how you feeling right now, or even a couple. Just be aware of how you feel and what you think when you're in recovery. And especially pay attention to your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes. You might want to make eye contact with some of the good folks that are around you here just to kind of get back and say, hey, how you doing? Okay? And take a breath. You see how that is? See how that is? I need to do that a lot because I forget. Sometimes I forget who I am. Can you relate to that? If I work too much, I'll forget who the hell I am and what I need. Okay? Okay, so now, here comes the slip part. Okay, so when you're ready, but I promise I'll bring you back, all right? Okay, so here's how it starts. When you're ready, take a deep breath and close your eyes and hold the image of the eyes of that person that you just saw. See if you can recreate the picture of that person's eyes, your healthy self. Can you see your healthy self? Nod your head if you can. Let me know. Okay, I'm seeing most of the room's able to do that. Okay, now we're going to change the picture. I want you to imagine that you see yourself in a different perspective. Right now, you're extremely worried because somebody you know is really being dysfunctional. Maybe they're using chemicals, or they crashed a car, or they went out gambling, or they've been unfaithful. And they're coming to you again with their sick, crazy problem, and you're just obsessed with straightening them out. And you know you're not going to sleep tonight until they get their act together. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, and just let it happen. I promise I'll bring you back. But imagine, how does that person look now? Like, how do they hold their head? And what does their hair look like now? And what is their posture like now? And what do their clothes look like now? That they're totally focused on this other person. And imagine that this person looks you in the eyes and you see those worried eyes staring at you. And just take a breath and allow yourself to be that person. I'm going to ask you the same questions. I want you to answer them silently and be aware of the difference. First of all, what is your life like from this perspective? How do you feel about yourself from this perspective? Do you feel connected to your higher power from this perspective? What is important to you from this perspective? Can you remember those things that were sacred? Now what seems important to you? What's your idea of having fun? How much fun are you having from this perspective? What do you do to take care of yourself? Can you do anything to take care of yourself from this perspective? What do you want or need from the other person? Is that different than it was before? Is this who you really are? Is this you? I want to suggest that this might be you under the influence of codependence. Take a trip through your body. Your body will tell you when you're slipping. Feel your neck. Feel your jaw. Feel your chest. Feel your belly. Feel your hips. Feel your shoulders. Is there a difference? Can you feel it? Okay, when you're ready, I want you to open your eyes, make eye contact with someone next to you or with me. Okay, gang, now it's important to come out. And I got to tell you, standing up here, this is scary. It's like, I wonder if I'm going to need some defibrillator paddles for a couple of you because, damn it. Okay, do you notice a stark difference, a big contrast? Okay, then here. Then it's important to finish the exercise. Take a deep breath. Let go of this image you've got of your unhealthy self. Close your eyes. See that healthy person that is loved and is acknowledged. Try to make eye contact with yourself again. You may find that it's work. Okay, but this is the discipline of the program. Get reconnected to those eyes again. See yourself the way you really are. Make eye contact with that person. Okay, and as soon as you can, take a deep breath and be that person. Okay, so take a deep breath. That's right. I'm the guy that received that birthday party from the people that love me. I'm that guy that graduated from college. That's right. I'm that guy who's lovable just because I'm breathing. That's right. You're that woman who receives love from the people that love you. You're that woman who did the important thing. You're that woman that is lovable just because you're breathing. Okay? Make eye contact with yourself. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the room. Okay? You okay? Okay. Okay. How many found that to be painful? Stressful? How many of you spent a considerable amount of time slipping? That was my childhood, all my teen years, pretty much my 20s, half my 30s. Christ, you want to know why I'm bald? You know, God, you see that? Isn't that crazy? That's this disease. So you want to be in a healthy relationship? You got to stay out of that. Okay? You can't be in that. That's not okay to do. So if all you get out of this is that I need to get out of my sick patterns and into recovery, you're doing dynamite. That's dynamite. Most folks, I'll tell you what most folks get by going to Codependence Anonymous, because I watch them. They do their patterned behavior over and over and over again with everybody. Then they go to a meeting, they get a little bit of feel good, walk out the door, go, oh, I really needed that meeting. And then they go right back out and do it again. And they won't work the steps unless, they freaking get in a car wreck or something like that. It's got to be this life-ending catastrophe. Don't be one of those people. What I want to do is give you some evidence for change. You're capable of change. And this thing called codependence, it's horrific. It'll do more than mess up your relationships. It'll take everything sacred from you, and then it'll kill you. Okay? So if that's what you pick up, that's good. Okay, so that's the exercise. Questions about the exercise? Yeah, please.
I just see on this handout it says the visualization. It's not written anywhere in here, little steps to remind ourselves how to do that daily. I just need to write it down right now.
The best thing to do is to go journal this one when you get on the break, because your personal experience is what you need to do. Mine's different than yours. Okay, is that helpful? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about healthy relationships. And I see I'm running out of time, so I'm going to move quick. There's always this resistance to wanting to do the steps and to have healthy relationships. Okay? Healthy relationships are built slowly over time, and they're based on trust and safety and responsibility. Okay? That's how they work. And there's always resistance to that. The codependent and the addict always want to rush into the relationship. Do you know what I mean? Like the first time I heard this, I said, screw this, I'm not doing this. I want to meet that girl tonight, Right? And it's this insane thinking. It's like the joke is addicts are just wild, right? And codependents are just wild, right? And it's like dog years, right? So one date with a codependent or an addict or a codependent addict is like 7 dates. So if an addict goes out with a codependent, that's like 14 dates, so it's okay to have sex on the first date. Right? Right? It don't work like that. Okay? That is not safe. That's crazy. Okay? You can't rush the process. All right? Those of you who have some experience in other 12-step programs know. What happens when you skip steps? What happens when you skip steps? It leads to disaster. Okay? I know people that went to prison and died because they skipped steps. Well, guess what? So, the first thing, examine your resistance and try to embrace it. It might be possible that you need to grieve. So as a part of the steps, and grief is built right into steps 1 through 9. It's a natural process, and be aware of that. Okay. Now, I avoid grief like the plague, and for some reason, it's the only thing that really heals me. And to this day, I've been in recovery 38 years, I still can't stand grieving. And yet, I've learned to be disciplined with myself and allow myself that process to heal. Because until I do that, I'm not done with the fantasy. I'm still just perpetrating a fantasy on my lover. God, to me that just sounds like Hannibal Lecter or something. I mean, it's just friggin' nasty, So, really? Judy, would you advance the slide, please? I can't believe this thing. So I want to talk about mutual relationships quickly for about the last 5 minutes. I'm on the last pages of your handout. This goes in stages. And there's really no substitution for this. So here's how you use this information, and you may want to write this down. The first thing you do is you think about a relationship that you're in that you want to keep, and determine which stage are you in the relationship. And then the next one is, ask yourself, what are you comfortable with? Like, where do you want to go? Do you want to become more intimate in this relationship? Have you become too intimate in a relationship that's really not good for you and you need to back up a little bit? So you ask yourself, first figure out where you are, then ask yourself, where do I need to go next? And to thine own self be true. And then the way that you go from one stage of intimacy to the next is you make boundaries. Now there's a whole pamphlet on making boundaries, and there's workshops on making boundaries, so Get a sponsor and figure out how to make boundaries. I'll give you the best short version of how to make effective boundaries. You don't use words. Words are lousy ways to make boundaries. Don't make boundaries with your mouth. Okay, if you're using your mouth, probably a crappy boundary. Am I making sense here? You do it with your actions. You decide, this is where I'm going to go, that's where I'm not going. And then you just follow through. And they'll learn. Your partner will learn. They're pretty good at picking up. It's difficult, but it's the only one that really works. So, here's the first stage in healthy relationships. It's called companionship. It's called acquaintanceship. An acquaintance is just someone you can hang out with and there's no agenda, but you feel safe. I have a lot of acquaintances at work. I have a lot of acquaintances in meetings. Right? Think about that. I don't know people very well. I really only know them as Bob or Shirley or Pat, right? Right? But I know that if I sit next to them at the meeting, they're not going to start controlling me, Can I give you some advice? That shit isn't going to happen. Right? Right? So it's just acquaintanceship. But that's where it starts. So here, for those of you that are lonely and haven't been in an intimate relationship for a while, I want to reassure you, there are 1,000 perfect mates for you right in your home area. And where you start looking is at your acquaintances. When you slip into your fantasy person, you're in trouble. Get out of that. Start looking at your acquaintances. Okay? And the next one is companionship. And a good way to learn the difference between companionship and acquaintances is watch little kids. Like go to a playground and watch little kids. Little kids are great at being companions. And they figure out who they can hang out with and who they don't really quick. And nobody gets real butt hurt over the deal. Right? You'll notice that, remember when you were a kid and there were people that you felt comfortable with? That's the big deal there. Now, the problem with codependency is we're usually so numb, we can't tell you whether we're comfortable or not. We've got a good idea how that person's supposed to behave, so our life works better. Right? But really, so a companion is someone that you feel like you could play with or be close with, and you're comfortable. It's not a real serious level of intimacy. If you don't see your companion for a couple of weeks, nobody's freaking out over the deal, right? Right? But that's a little bit closer. Okay, and then the next stage is friendship. Okay, now, friendship is where you're starting to get off the beach. Okay, you know what I mean? You know what I mean by on the beach? Like when I was dating, I'd see this, my chemistry would go off and I'd attract this girl and I'd ask her out on a date. Now we're seeing each other and I'm doing this on the beach behavior where it's like, hi, this is me. I'm really going to show you my nice stuff so you don't dislike me. And that's all you're going to see. And I'm really this kind of candy-coated nice guy all the time. And that's such crap. But I'm going to do it. And then you get a crush going. And then it just comes on like maple syrup. It's just coming out of you. It's like, okay. Then you hang around long enough to actually have a friend and you find out your friend's got some warts and some wrinkles in their personality, and sometimes they say stuff that's awkward or uncomfortable or it lets you down. You find out they're a human being. You're getting off the beach. And a friend is someone that will accept me for all my foibles and I can accept them, and I'm not going to abandon them because I know that when they mess up with me, they'll come back around and make an amend. See, I feel safe around them. You know what I mean? That's friendship. That's the next stage in developing an adult sexual relationship, is becoming good friends. All right? Okay, now, if you're codependent or addicted or both, you're probably getting a lot of resistance going right now, and what I'm telling you is that's normal. Pay attention to that. Because you're probably going, well, crap, this could take months. What? When is the sex? When do we do the sex? That's right. Hang on. Just wait a minute. Okay? Here, I want to tell you something. This is just the truth. This is like the Harry Truman stuff. They called Harry Truman the president that gave him hell. Give him hell, Harry. That was his nickname. Well, they were interviewing Harry Truman about that. And he said, I really never gave anybody hell. I just told them the truth, and they all thought it was hell. Right? But here's the truth. There is no such a thing as casual sex. If I'm going to get, as a male, when I'm having sex, I get inside the woman's body. If I'm going to get that intimate with her, I'm going to bring that woman all my pathology that's not healed. And I'm also going to embrace all of hers. Even on a one-night stand, there's a residual. So there's this BS thing on TV. They go, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? That's bullshit. Pardon me. What happens in Vegas wakes you up at 3 in the morning and you go, oh God, you know. Now I got to go to the doctor. Oh. Am I telling the truth here? No, there is no such a thing as casual sex. Okay, there isn't. So friendship. Then when I feel safe around my friend, I might do what's called intimate friendship. And intimate friendship is physical contact that's non-sexual in nature. Like, do you remember being a teenager, you had a crush on somebody, and you see them for a little while, and then you're walking around, and all of a sudden you feel that person take your hand. Do you remember what that felt like? And they hold your hand, you know. And I remember that. I'm walking, I go, okay, can I make the move now? Okay, got to look tough, got to look strong. Right? Oh, God, I hope she doesn't slap me. Okay. Oh, she's holding my hand. Whoa, she's holding my hand. This is so cool. Oh, I like this, you know, right? Remember how that felt? That's really intimate stuff. Don't do that with strangers that you don't know, you know, right? Like when I was in therapy, my counselor said, Scott, I'm going to give you a rule for new dating. You can't go out with anybody crazier than you. And he said, now, let me give you some reassurance. The field is wide open. Really? He goes, yeah, take this MMPI. I'll prove it to you, you know. Okay, no, but that's, okay, now you see how intimate that is? Now, in reality, in your soul, when you're being that open and vulnerable and you're touching your partner in that kind of an intimate way, that's pretty wild stuff going. Now, at that point in time, healthy chemistry starts really developing. And now, as codependents and addicts, we're always seeking that hot excitement. I got to tell you what, nothing's better than healthy chemistry. Nothing's hotter than healthy chemistry. Okay, now I'm not going to go into a lot about our sexual relationship, but I can say this. I have a very good sexual relationship with my wife. And the first time somebody told me that I had to do this stuff before I could get in a healthy adult sexual relationship, I went, you're full of crap. I'm not doing this. You know, many of us exclaimed, what an order. No, I'm not doing this, you know, right? But I have to tell you that if you really want healthy romance and intimacy, you've got to have safety and trust and respect and responsibility and accountability, and that doesn't happen overnight. That takes a long time. And then when you've been intimate friends long enough that you really can trust your partner, then you might want to move into the next step, which is sensual friendship. This is where the touching starts getting sexual. This is where the kissing gets hot. Do you understand? But the kissing also happens when you're embracing the other person exactly the way they are. Oh my God, I'm running over, I'm sorry, so I'm going to get moving. Then comes sexual creative lovers. This is an intimate, adult, committed sexual relationship. And then comes spiritual life partners. Round about that time, Judy and I dated for 3 years, right? 2 of those years we were in marital therapy because we had 4 kids, right? And we were bringing the kids to family therapy. Then you could put on one of those things. Okay. Now I've really got my soulmate. You know. This is incredible because I can't get away with my crap around her anymore. I can pull it off with some of you. I can be charming and manipulative, but it just hurts her. I can't do that. This is it. This is the one that when I'm working in Japan, I know that she's still with me in my heart. I've run you over, and I'm very sorry. I don't want to do this. What a pleasure and an honor it is to have been your volunteer. If you have questions, come up, talk to me afterwards. Thank you so much. Keep coming to meetings.